what has to be understood is that the notion that we don't have to obey their laws, being the fallacy that it is clearly demonstrated in the local legislature of the states. It's demonstrated in the organic constitution that governs all of the states. The First Amendment to the organic constitution clearly states that Congress shall pass no law with respect to the establishment of religion or the practice thereof. In the same First Amendment, it gives the news media the freedom of press. So I humbly ask the media either do more of an investigation on these fallacious stories, or as we honor your First Amendment, honor our First Amendment. Instead of listening to fabricated lies. Let me prove some of my points. And I'll use this particular jurisdiction as an example. The state constitution states that the General Assembly in this state shall not make a law establishing the prohibition of religion or the practice thereof. The local legislature says that if the doctrine of a religious corporation is in conflict with this section, the religious corporation takes precedence. The Religious Freedom Act of this state states that no official of the state or subdivision of the state can burden one's religious beliefs and practices. Then when you're dealing with United States the United States Supreme Court case law, which is the law of the land, and it is a stare decisis. In other words, it's already been decided in the highest courts. Therefore, it can't be redecided or reinterpreted. But this is what U.S. versus Ballot says. It was decided in 1944, and it clearly states that the court found that neither the courts nor the government have the right to evaluate the religious beliefs of a citizen or a group. So, with that being said, it's not us breaking the law or disobeying the law out of ignorance or conspiracy. It's the law enforcement breaking the law. Seriously. So, I know I might have gone in circles. It's about 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning. But this is on my heart and on my mind. And I really, want to discuss it. As unorganized as this may sound, I hope somebody can make sense out of it. But it really, really upsets me of all of the discomfort, families being destroyed, mothers, losing their children, fathers being taken from their homes, making dysfunctional families. These are acts of genocide, all because of false media. And the only thing we humbly say is meet us on an open forum in a public debate in front of God and everybody and prove we are paper terrorists. Prove we are black separatists. All right? Because our doctrine says otherwise. Now, let me make this disclaimer. There are people out there who look like me. But just because our skin is the same complexion does not mean we adhere to the same laws, rules, regulations, and customs. There are also several different types of Moors out there. We Moorish Americans adhere to the religion of Islamism. That's the religion of the Moorish American Muslims taught by Noble Drew Ali. You have your indigenous Moors. Your Yamasee, your Massey, your Washita, your Cherokee, your Choctaw, These are other types of Moors, whether they spell it Moor or Muur. All right. Then you have your national Moors, that adhere to the Zodiac Constitution, the Azizan Moorish Constitution, the Mexican Moor Empire Constitution, and they build upon those principles. Some of the tribes have dual jurisdictions. They may have tribal titles on one end, but their national religion is the religion of the Moorish Americans, or in Islamism. A lot of them wear two hats. But let me reiterate this. The uniform commercial codes trying to tap into this contract trust account with the Department of Treasury, trying to pay bills with bonds and money orders and chargebacks and international bills of exchange, sashaying into somebody else's mansion and attempting to squat in it, trying to walk off, sign for a car and then not paying the note on it, regardless of the commercial laws involved with it. That is not Moorish science, and the Moorish Americans do not adhere to it. Now, one issue about the paper terrorist accusation is there are some cases where the only thing they have to do is lean you. And I'm talking about the law enforcement and some judges. Because, see, it's very, very obvious that regardless of what these Moorish people tell you, you see Negro. You see a descendant of African slaves. And something in the back of your mind is telling you that this is my servant. How dare my dog buck at me? And that's not the truth. Our God and our prophet protects us, along with the laws of our Quran Circle 7 and our divine constitution and bylaws and our doctrine. So we are not 14th Amendment citizens. I know the legislature in South Carolina, in reference to the Negro Act of 1740, it clearly states in Chapter 1, Section 4, that the people that are exempt, and when they refer to Negroes, they're talking about enslaved Africans from the continent of Africa, and not Moorish Americans that are descendants of Moroccans born here in America. And that particular legislature excludes Gypsies, Moors, and Indians in treaty with the state of South Carolina. So there's a clear distinction between we brown-skinned people and those brown-skinned people who are 14th Amendment citizens. Now, for those grand sheiks who have those membership cards in their pocket, when the prophet gave us a nationality and identification card, please check yourself, because that's not in line with what the prophet brought. He brought you back to the constitutional fold of government exclusively. So please govern yourself accordingly. Without going into the right to travel and the stipulations thereof, when you see a Moorish plate, if that is a legitimate entity, we have the Ministry of Land, Transport, and Navigations. When you see the Moorish plate, it is letting you know that that is private property and belongs to an outside entity. And respectfully, your jurisdiction is only when you see a state-issued plate. You can't call the plate counterfeit because it does not resemble anything you have in your motor vehicle system. You can't call the IDs counterfeit because our identification card is 85 years old. And even the upgraded ones look nothing like your state ID, nor does it say driver's license on there. So what you're doing is committing fraud and perjury. and trumping up false charges. And just like anyone else who wishes to be left alone, we have no choice but to take you to court or to find some type of administrative remedy to make you leave us alone. The difference between us and the African American is a cultural difference as well as a religious difference. We speak differently. We have other customs. Let me straighten something else out about that. All Moors are not Muslims, because unlike Al-Islam, we do not adhere to Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. We honor Prophet Muhammad because we are taught to honor all of the prophets of Allah. We say Allah because Allah is an ancient word, meaning the source. And it came about well before Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. You know, giving honor to Prophet Muhammad. But respectfully to our brothers of the Islamic world, our prophet is Noble Drew Ali, because Allah sends a prophet to his own people to deliver his own people out of a sinful state, a state of a stupor, into enlightenment. He has to come from our own, speaking our own language, from our own culture. This is the only way he could give the divine word from Allah to his people. And our prophet on this continent, on this side of Africa, West Africa, is Noble Drew Ali. Respectfully. And we just ask for everybody to have religious tolerance. And to the law enforcement, I reiterate, this is not a constitutional issue with Moorish Americans. It is a religious issue. And those who adhere to the Prophet's teachings, chapter, verse, sentence, paragraph, are obeying the constitutional principles that he gave us. Your legislature says that any statute that you trump up that is not in harmony with the constitutional principles of your state or the constitutional jurisdiction is null and void. So the people are becoming aware of it. For you African Americans who are posing as Moorish Americans, beware. Beware. You know, because we're speaking to the law enforcement as well, if they will listen. So we can coordinate something where you imposters who are trying to destroy the Prophet's name, a collective effort will be made to deal with the situation accordingly, utilizing the 5 principles. I'm no authority. You know, I'm nobody big. But I'm just laying the facts out there. Because I've seen paperwork on news where this person has a totally Christian name. Chapter 48, verse 6 says that we as a clean and pure nation do not desire to amalgamate. Amalgamate meaning to mix or intertwine. These are our laws, saying that we can't mix or intertwine with any other organization or government. Then in chapter 48, verse 7, it says we must return the church and Christianity back to the European. This is for 2 reasons. Because, see, I know somebody will look at our book of law and see that and go, oh, see, they want to be separatists. Oh, la, 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 la. No. Historically, the only people in the world who have ever been known as Christians are Europeans. That is a fact. And even when we finally lost the territory called Al-Andalus, commonly known as Spain, in 1492, those who converted to Christianity because they had property and didn't want to lose it, and those who were forced to be Christians or practice the Christian religion were not called Christians. They were called Moriscos. That is a Moorish Christian. So the prophet taught us that we must return the church and Christianity back to the European. For that is for his earthly, that was prepared for his earthly salvation. See? So that's not being a separatist. That also includes not only his society, but his customs. So that being in the Quran Circle 7, which is our book of law, that makes it a mandate. So we need to think those who are holding on to Christian names with a hyphen ill or bay. Yes, I know the early pioneers did that. But let me ask you a couple of questions. Would you ever find a Chinaman named David Schwarzenegger? Would you find a German person named Juan Gonzalez? Or what about, I don't know, what about a Dominican named Shi Shu Shu? And forgive me for that poor analogy, my Manchurian brothers and sisters, but I'm trying to make a point. There is no other nation on the world that carries the national descent name of another nation. When you speak your attribute and title, the person does not even have to look at you to know where you come from. That is an international principle. So I say that in closing to reiterate that we really need to govern ourselves accordingly. And those people who are really serious about carrying on the prophet's work for the next 100 years need to start reading the instructions. And for the media, since you've made it very difficult for us to actually reach you and tell our side of the story, or even organize a debate with these people who are slandering our prophet, which says a lot for the media. I have no choice but to attempt to reach out to the people to let them know that Moorish Americans, followers of Noble Drew Ali, are not paper terrorists. We don't indulge in the commercial process. It is not necessary, because our prophet taught us that if we ask in an intelligent tone, we'll be rendered a favorable reply. So we have different ways of acquiring property that belongs to someone else, especially abandoned property that belongs to a state or local government. We know how to approach them and ask or negotiate for such properties. We don't just walk up in people's property because somebody says that we are the original people of the land. But we're talking about the land, not the real estate or the property on top of the land. So, brothers and sisters, check yourself. I know I've been rattling on, but I've been up all night, handling business, taking care of the affairs of men. And all of a sudden I got frustrated and I wanted to share my heart and my mind with you. So in the divine principles of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, I leave you as I greeted you, in peace. Thank you for your time, and God bless.